Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now, this is one of your best programs on education on television. I am Wilma. You're very welcome to today's episode. Today, from parental fines for term time holidays and the A-level results coming out next week. What should parents do? Those are a few of the things we'll be talking about today. And with me on set is Dr. Chris Imafidon. He's a consultant to governments and monarchs when it comes to formulating education policies to help raise achievements. Dr. Chris, you're very welcome to our studios today.
Thanks for your kind invitation.
Now let's start with parental fines for term times holidays. Are they really working? Let's take a look at some statistics now. Almost 64,000 fines have been issued since the law changed in September 2013. This is a rise of about 70% according to local authority data. More than 3/4 of councils, which is 118, responded to a BBC survey. Parents are fined £60 per parent per child per period of absence, which rises to £120 if not paid within 21 days. And Lancashire Council issued the most fines in 2013, which is a plus 176% change, 176% change for fines for parents. Now, is it really working? Are the fines working?
If we look at year-on-year statistics, it shows that it's not working.
It's not working.
You need to educate people about the benefits of education and make it literally clear to them. If you like, dramatize the benefits. If you do that, everyone wants something good. Everybody wants something positive. Now, if you say you want to go with the stick, most people will be completely resistant to it, and so you lose the battle. So using the carrot or the stick is always been a debate, and it's very, very clear that if you want people to follow what you're doing, you persuade them rather than punishing them.
How best can we reduce absence in our schools?
If the parents have one whole day of school attendance, no students, just the parents. How about that? Because right now we do that for teachers. They call it an inset day. Teachers come in and they have a refresh. They have new knowledge. They refresh what they already know. They are re-enthused in terms of what they need to do. Now, parents are left out of the whole cycle. It's as if parents are not relevant to the equation, when really they are the care and the main provider of guidance to students. Students go back home to their parents, they see things, they get involved in things, and they can make up their own mind. So if you really want everyone to be successful in this whole thing, it has to be a partnership between the home and the school. And if the home is really aware of what the school wants to achieve, if the home is educated enough, I mean, we have been there, we've seen that, we know that people that are focused on learning, and learning is not just academic achievement now, learning in terms of skill acquisition, learning in terms of knowledge acquisition, not only that broadens all aspects of human existence, then you find out that there will always be cooperation between the school and home. But right now, it's as if you're trying to punish the home. You're almost treating the parents as if they are part of your students. And they wouldn't like that. They want to show that they are adults. So
we should make an inset day for parents compulsory in our schools.
We should have a whole day where the school shuts down, literally, and invites all the parents in. And you can talk to the parents about career development. You can talk about the impact. It can be inspirational. You can bring in past students that have been very successful and get the parents on board. If they are not on board, there's no way the school can succeed.
Now, talking about exams in England are unimaginative, little changed from Victorian times, and fail to ready pupils for the modern workplace, once Eton's headmaster. Too much focus on grades means exams can eclipse an all-round education, argues Tony Little. Mr. Little says the pressure is on for England to emulate highly academic school systems in East Asia. Now, Dr. Chris, what changes should be brought into our exam system to make our pupils ready for the modern workplace?
It's not just the exam system. We should redefine learning. Learning is not just getting facts and then regurgitating it, because that's essentially what we're doing now. You come in, the teacher stands in front of the students, dump some facts on them, they pick them up, and then on the day of the exam, they regurgitate, just tell you essentially what you've heard before. It should go far beyond that. We should have real application of knowledge. That should be tested on application, not on remembrance, not on memory.
Not a memory, but an application.
No, not memory. How do you apply these facts to unknown situations? If you're given a puzzle, how do you solve a chemical problem? How do you solve a physics problem? How do you solve a maths problem? Not whether or not do you remember a body of facts that are mathematical. So if we know that we have that in vocational cases, we are able to assess students on the delivery of what they do. But in terms of standard academic examination, it's quite, I mean, Mr. Little is quite right. It hasn't changed for over 200 years. Which is still the Victorian era, and we've moved forward. Everything has been digitized in a lot of things. Our kids are using apps these days. They know how to use the iPads, but we're still relying on a system that was built during the Victorian era. Yeah, why should every single assessment be pen and paper related? Why should we not have a real physical examination? Why should we not have an oral defense? Why should we just say, okay, the person that remembers best is the best person to succeed? And it shows the percentage of attrition in the top university is as high as 30% in some of the courses. That means 30% of boys and girls that were deemed capable went on a course and then dropped out. I think that's failure. If we cannot reduce it to something if we cannot reduce it to single digits, then we have failed those students because, one, we gave them a false premise and then they came and started a university degree. Two, we give them the feeling that they are straight A students. I've never heard about such things. To say, why should you, on a one-off assessment, say some student is a straight A and some students are failures, or some students have to be apprentice? Those are very, very artificial lines, and we need to deconstruct that. If we don't, we'll find out that our major international competitors will overtake us. And they are already overtaking us, especially in Shanghai, in Asia. What changes should be brought into the educational system now, especially when it comes to how our students take exams? It should start from teacher training. We should have all the deans of College of Education sit down and look at what is the ideal student, and then how do we produce the ideal student, and then teach teachers how to work with the ideal student on the basis of the information we have today, not on the basis of the information we had 100 years ago. We should completely set aside the system and come out. We bold enough to know that if it's not fit for purpose, we'll jettison it. If it's great, we'll continue with it. So I think that's, so it has to start with the teacher training. So the teachers have to be trained differently. They have to be reorientated differently, and they have to see a new role for themselves as facilitators of learning and not just teachers. Teachers have a body of knowledge. They understand that. They're experts in that, and you put them in the classroom. That does not make you a teacher. That doesn't make you a teacher. It only makes you an expert. A lot of work for our education secretary here. Okay. Now, let's go over. We're still talking about exams, and we know that every child is a genius, irrespective of current or past exam grades. We've said this over and over again in this program. An exam is definitely not, parents need to know, exam is not a true measure of the ability of the student. Is only a snapshot of how prepared the student was at that time to take the exam. We talked about this last week, but a lot of parents have wondered, they want a lot of clarity on this. How can you turn a grade from a U to an A star? A lot of parents listened to us and they said, yes, I want to increase my child's grades, and how can I do that? You have to understand that the child is capable of getting A star. That's first and foremost. If you can get A star in any subject, you can get A star in every subject. What about those who have not gotten an A star at all in any subject? Easy. Get a test. I mean, the Excellence in Education program runs their 21-day program that takes you through step by step for you to first of all understand what is learning, what is knowledge assimilation, what is knowledge absorption, what is knowledge acquisition. Now, if you draw 3 different lines and say, if I am able to ride a bike after I've heard from you, I have not just absorbed the knowledge, I've applied the knowledge, so I've used the knowledge differently. If I'm able to drive a car after I've seen you drive a car, then that's a totally different thing. I have not been supervised in the acquisition of that knowledge. So if parents understand this, because the emphasis in schools is just what you need to know rather than how you need to know it, then you know that you can get 100% of the content given to you and reproduce that. So if you've ever written a test and you got all the questions right, it is one sure sign that you can get an A star. If you write a test and for all your life you've never gotten all the questions right, there's something wrong in how well you relate to the body of knowledge that is given to you, in how you see learning. Do you see learning as fun, or do you see it as a chore? Why do you learn? Do you learn out of curiosity, or do you learn out of formality? That means only the things that you have to learn is what you learn. Some people will never read a book as soon as they pass their exams. So never read a book. Don't see any reason to read a book at all. That's very, very defective learning. You should be able to inquire and research into your own area of interest. So I can sit down, for instance, and read and read and read and read all I need to do about a particular individual in history. Say, I might look at the Tudor and have a particular character there and read about it, or in literature and read all about it, because that character is fascinating to me. So therefore, there's no limit to how much I can find out about that person. And I use current tools, not the old tool. It's current tools, real tools that we have now. We use in modern technology. We're able to explore in all types of information. The information might be visual, it might be just video, it might be auditory, it might just be tapes and podcasts. So my quest for knowledge about what I'm interested in is not limited by formal classroom recommended textbook. So you jettison what everybody adheres to and holds on to the textbook. No, you don't need textbook to know anything about anything at all. You can, without a textbook, understand and get an A star without reading any formal textbook. And that's been done, that's been proven over and over again. For a 6-year-old to do an A-level exam or understand A-level concept, you can't get that from current textbooks.
Definitely, you can't get that from current textbooks. So the emphasis is not on what the child can regurgitate, but how he learns, how he assimilates knowledge, and how he acquires knowledge.
Absolutely.
And this has to be a collaboration between the parent and the child.
Absolutely. You need to be able to work with the child. You need to be able to understand the child. If you don't understand the child, you cannot understand how that child gets concepts. If I don't observe a child enough, I won't know whether the child is left-handed or right-handed. So I will not be able to give the child pen in the hand that the child is able to write on. So the child has a preferred way of writing. The child has a way of getting knowledge and assimilating knowledge, and that has to be recognized, and that has to be the only way knowledge is given to that child.
The only way knowledge is given to that child. Now, you were with the VC of Oxford last week, Professor Andrew Hamilton. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, it's the annual routine of graduating students, and essentially Oxford is coming out with novel ways of trying to encourage non-traditional students to apply to Oxford. So they have all sorts of summer programs, they have scholarships, they have open days, they have taster days, and there are even opportunities for you to spend a whole week shadowing an undergraduate student. That means you physically live in the college, you eat with them in the college, you do everything like a normal student will do. And then the myth about Oxford being just for the elite will be revised, because it's not really for the elite, it's for anyone that is interested. So if you have enough interest in it, you research all the colleges, you find the college that is most favorable to you and your personality and your background and what you want to read, and then you're able to make an informed application. Because most people are just writing and thinking, oh, let them decide for me what I want to read, or let them decide for me the college I need to go into. No, you need to be very proactive. The more you understand about the collegiate system, the more you understand about the tutorial system, the more you will love the institution and therefore want to make a great application to them.
We'll talk more about college, because I know a lot of parents really want a lot of information on that, but do not have so much information. So for parents who want information, you can actually send emails to educationtalk@lawworld.co.uk or go to the Excellence in Education website and get more information on that. Now, next week, Thursday, has been termed Judgment Day for the universities and the pupils going into universities. What should every parent do?
I must disabuse everybody. It's not Judgment Day. It's not. It's all hyped up. It doesn't mean anything at all, because it doesn't define you. As a big A-level day, everyone's saying, oh, that's what is going to decide your fate. No, it doesn't decide your fate. Your fate was decided long before the exam. So I don't want anybody to think the exam makes and breaks your career or your options or your decision in life. No, it doesn't. We've had people that have not done very well at A-level and eventually went on and won the Nobel Prize in that particular subject, in chemistry, Harvard Brown. We've had people, Professor Brian Cox, for instance, failed his A-level maths and he still went on to be went on and did great things. So your grade does not reflect who you are. Your grade does not define who you are. Your grade is just a snapshot in time that tells us what you were able to do and the methodology of your preparation. So it's how you manage your time and how you manage the body of facts that was given to you that is reflected in your grade. So if you manage it differently, you will get a totally different result. The same you, that's why the retakes is always very informative. If you have a lot of students every year that take retakes in the particular subjects they're doing, and the excellence education does that a lot, after 14 days, you find out that you should never have been given a U. So these are people that were given a U grade. That means ungradable. That means essentially what they did was below C level. How can it be that 14 days later, they are getting A star? They are literally coasting an A star. So it's a defective preparation strategy that led to that grade. And it really saddens me when a lot of students are given false, if not misleading advice to say, oh, change the subjects you are doing because of an AS result or because of an A2 result, or change the university you want to. Why should you change? Remember, you spent your time carefully considering your options, you arrived at your options, and now you set out to do what you wanted to do. Whether you want to pursue a degree in the liberal arts or in engineering or in medicine, you set out to do that because you loved it. So if your grade comes out different from what you were expecting, there's only one course of action. You stay on the course and you review your strategy, you review your methodology. You check, what did I do wrong, what went wrong? Because it's a learning process itself. It's not a decision process. It doesn't decide for you what you're eventually going to be, or it doesn't in any way reflect on your past achievements.
For students who find out they haven't met the grades were expected by the university that has given them a conditional offer, what choices and options do they have? Look
at what you as a student were expecting. Look at what your school predicted you. If these two predictions or these two grades are the same, but radically different from what you obtained, there's a mistake, there's an error. So you need to go, first of all, identify what exam board you're doing. Two, go straight to the website and start the ATS form process. Access to script. Want to see, what did I do wrong? That should be the first thing. I'm not going to go and compromise on the choice of my university on the basis of one single grade. No, I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. Why should I do that? It means that I was not sure of what my calling was. It means I was not sure of what I was doing initially. I should query the process and not query the person. Because if you query the person and say, oh, I think I'm very weak in that subject. No, the exam should not tell you. You should have known that yourself because you did a series of mock exams and you've done some assessment since then. You know that the way you learn is the way you learn, and it's different from the way every other person learns. So stay on course, get your scripts, contact us at the Excellence in Education program if you're confused about that. Get your script back and look at what mistakes did you make in your paper that cost you that set of marks. Now, if there is a big disparity between what you were expecting, what the school predicted, and what you got, then try and reconcile your school with yours. If it's still the same, then still ask for the script to be remarked now. Right, so remember, there's one course of action. You can just look at your scripts to make sure that there are no errors, no big errors there. Or you can challenge it and say, my school expected me to get an A star. Based on my work, very conservatively, I was expected to get an A, and now you've given me a C or a D. What went wrong? Better check the scripts again, and they can check it. And there are errors every time. And sadly, this is the last point, most of the students getting their result on Thursday are getting their result against the background of not having written a January exam. Now, if you were deprived the opportunity to write a winter exam, it means that all the pressure was put on the summer administration of the exam. So that really tells you that you went straight for the big match without doing a friendly. It tells you that you didn't build up momentum to it. So it tells you nothing, absolutely. Because the less assessment you have, the less of reality it really paints for you. The multiple assessment tells me, oh yeah, I think he's been consistent in getting an A. But this one just took one shot at the exam, one single shot. The generation before this had two shots. So all the more reason why Thursday should be completely discounted if the results are not consistent with what you want. because it doesn't reflect.
Interesting.
Ability.
And a survey has also shown that over 54% of our students do not have a plan B.
That's the
if
reason
they don't
why.
get into university.
Yes, that's the reason why every parent must follow their son or daughter to the school on Thursday. Because you have to be their plan B. You have to be somebody they're going to bounce ideas off. And you have to be non-judgmental. You have to come with clarity that you are here to support. You're here to advise. You're here to be a friendly advisor. You're not here to say, oh, I told you should have worked hard, because that's fallacy. Nobody gets top grades by working hard. You get top grades by working smart.
By working smart.
Yeah,
not working
nobody
hard.
gets anywhere by working hard. There are two different things.
Strategies.
The most hardworking person in any organization is not always the best paid, and it's not always the leader. So leadership requires a slightly different skill. So if you wanted your son or your daughter to lead with the top grades, they'll do something totally differently. You can get a perfect score, you can get 100% of your marks in any exam, you take a different route. The most hardworking student will follow the textbook, go through page by page, and remember only 20%. The smart student reads the only 20% that is key to getting the exam. That's one key example. Everybody gets the whole giant maths GCSE book and reads all the different chapters. But the smart student just gets the maths manual, compresses every single thing you need to know, which is really 20% of the standard textbook, and then gets an A star. So that's the reason why anybody that ends up not getting the top grades they wanted, or they desired, or they dreamt of, need to review their strategy. You may have used the wrong materials.
Tell us more about the maths manual, because it's based on GCSE syllabus. This is, I mean, one of the best manuals I've seen on maths.
It's written by students, for students. So the language is non-threatening. Most of the textbooks that we have are just laborious to read. They go through every single detail, relevant or no relevant, by somebody that has a PhD or somebody that has an MPhil wanting to show off their knowledge. Man, this is wanting to show you how to understand it. That's a key. That's a critical point. One is showing off, the other one is showing you how to do it. The other one draws a lot of joy in peer-to-peer education, where your classmates explains things to you. You find out it's a lot easier than when a teacher talks down to you. Mm-hmm. So that's how the maths manual came about. So any student that believes that maths is a difficult subject will understand it, because the maths manual treats it as a game. That's a language peers understand. They don't understand problem solving and why problems. They want to see it as a game. A game is I play against you and you play against me. You may win, I may win.
So the language of delivery is what is important here.
It's communication. The emphasis is communication, is not on content. Most of our books are heavily, very, very heavy on, when it comes to content, and they don't care whether the jargons, they're putting up the introductory learner or putting up the intermediate learner. They just want to make sure the facts are well stated. And who referees it, who reads it before it's published? Other professors.
Not the students, not the peers.
Not the customer, not the final destination. You give it to other people that already have knowledge about the subjects without testing it on people that have no knowledge about the subject. So communication is far more important than content. If we understand that, we'll find out that most of the subjects that we find extremely difficult is difficult because of the way it's been communicated to us.
Just before we go, tell us what parents need to do, especially those who want to increase the attainment level of their child. What do they need to do to ensure that the child gets that grade? We've known from these discussions today that it's possible to get an A star even if that child had a U before the exams were ungradable. But now, what input and effort do the parents need to put into? Parents are very busy. They go to work, they leave the kids to go for extra classes. Is that enough?
No, if you give me 1 minute on that, I'll probably deconstruct why one-to-one home tuition is not the best. If you want the best for your child, the child has got to be able to develop independent learning skills. That means they have to understand they are not going to be taught everything they need to learn. That means they have to work out how you have to help your son or your daughter develop a strategy of learning and acquiring knowledge. And it doesn't have to be academic. I keep saying this. It can be sporting. It can be musical. It must start from what they love. If my child loves football, let's start with how he can improve his football skills. Let's find out how he can read and understand the football or the sports pages of the newspaper, and they interpret that for me. Now, that seems like a casual thing to do.
But that's comprehension.
That's comprehension, because you're looking at paragraphy, you're looking at subtitles. That's a great way of boosting your literary level. So you cannot say because there's no textbook, the child is not learning, or because we're not in a classroom, the child is learning. If the child watches TV and they comes back and says, oh yeah, I found that program very interesting, can you write it up for me in 2 paragraphs? What you are essentially getting the child is reporting. The child has watched a set of events, the child is going to write them down in sequence, it's going to bring out the highlights. So you're doing a lot of learning without making it a chore or without making it academic. So you always be there to encourage. The second thing is that you must encourage your child. A child doesn't work best under pressure. It works best under an environment of encouragement and support. So you encourage, oh, you got that wrong. Oh, how did you get that wrong? Let's go through it. So, oh, why did you get that wrong? I mean, the tonality and the comments is quite useful. So every parent needs to know that. Because the child is a genius, you can work as long as possible with the child until he walks. That's what you did. Before your child started walking, you had to work with the child. The child stumbled and fell and got up, stumbled, fell and got up. That's essentially what the process is.
So the learning shouldn't just be transferred to the teachers, because when we did the PISA test, the UK, the international test for 16-year-olds, the UK didn't do very well, and cities like Shanghai were at the top of the table. One key difference was because in Shanghai, every parent was personally involved in the educational achievement of the child.
I think that's fundamental. Personally involved, not delegating. That's essentially, that's what I was saying about the one-to-one. If you're involved, the child knows that he cannot pull a wool over your eyes. If you're involved, the child knows that it's a long-term thing. You're not going to go away, you're not going to go on transfer. But if you're relating to a Latin teacher or a music teacher, you know that the relationship for the brief is a brief period, probably for a year or 2 or 3 at the most. But if you're dealing with your parents, you know that it's for life. So the way you work and relate with the person is totally different. It's been proven by psychologists over and over again that the person that introduces contents to you or a material to you is more important than the material.
What measures can the government take to ensure parents get personally involved, and should there be incentives introduced?
Oh, they can have a parents' award in schools. They can have all sorts of incentive to say that because the child was able to do it, they have collaboration in some countries where you have industry sponsorship of parent involvement. So you give prizes and you give awards out to parents for being the most involved. The PTA can be revived, the so-called Parents-Teacher Association, I'm saying so-called because the association has failed to deliver that environment where there's real smooth communication between the teachers and the parents so that they know that homeschool has a good dialogue. But right now it's been hijacked by a group of people that are very enthusiastic in terms of achieving their own narrow interests. But if the PTA is revived to involve teachers and parents sitting down together to discuss for the sole interest of the student, we'll be able to get that done again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. Wonderful to have you on this program. We're running out of time, and we look forward to having you next week.
Pleasure, thank you.
Viewers, this is Education Talk. Now we bring solutions to challenges faced when it comes to educational achievement for pupils, students, teachers, including head teachers and parents. If you've got questions, you can send emails to educationtalk@loveworldtv.co.uk. For parents expecting the A-levels results of the awards on Thursday, do remember to log on to the Excellence in Education website for more information on what to do. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of our programs.